We've been wanting to do this box forever because it's just a funny box, just going nuts. We have this ongoing list of things we put in possible themes, and going nuts has been on there for a little while, and now we're finally doing it. So I'm super excited to go nuts with you today.
Are you nuts for it?
I'm so nuts. I'm nutty nuts. Hello and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. I'm your host, Jen Mason, and with me today is always lovely Julie Faye Van Balzer. Good afternoon, Julie. How are you today?
Oh, well, I'm lovely because I actually got to see you in person to pick up my cheese this morning, which was great.
Yes. Yeah. So, people, there are logistics involved, hard logistics of meeting at a park and exchanging cheese.
Yeah,
Like we're
don't
in the
don't
cheese
put that
mafia.
on me. Exactly. You don't know what's under our overcoats.
That's right. We wore overcoats. It's 83 degrees. We sweat. It's great. So it was lovely to see you in person. And it's always lovely to eat cheese with you. And for those of you who are listening in, who are new, we are your hosts for Curdbox, Curdcast. And we're basically going to eat through the August box together. And I'm going to serve as the expert. Although there are really no experts of cheese because there's always new things to learn. And Julie is going to ask the questions
Dumb
and see if she
question.
can step me. Not dumb questions. So we like to say that because Julie and I are also best friends and not just co-hosts here, that I answer Julie like she's asked the most intelligent questions ever, but they're usually the questions that our listeners have. So if you'd like to listen to us in the future and eat along and you don't already get Curdbox, you can go to curdbox.com and get your box. If you subscribe in August, you're going to get the next box, which we're doing with Food Network chef Justin Warner. You can go check out his Instagram. He's talked about it. We just did a podcast with him, which we'll be telling everybody about. It airs, I think, August 10th, but super exciting. So sign up so you can listen along with Julie and I next month if you're not already listening along with your box. And I'm really excited about this cheese. So the theme this month is going nuts. And as I was telling Julie at the beginning of this podcast, we keep a list of running ideas as something hits us. Cheese people are very punny people. We keep a going list. We actually just sat down last week, beginning of this week, and planned out our themes for 2022. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're already on that. Super excited, but we pull up that list. And let me just tell you, there are some that are inappropriate. We don't use those, but we like to put those in there so we can laugh about them again when we go to do planning. But going nuts has been on there for a while. We've been trying to figure it out and figure out exactly what we'd put in it, not just like 4 packages of nuts. We wanted something really interesting. And so I'm excited to show you like how we think about what going nuts could be. And we're always super excited when we have this really great idea and we get to pull it out, take it off the bench and get to throw it, say like, go play. It's time to play. So suit up. So how do we talk about nuts? Well, the pairings are easy. The pairings all have nuts in them. Excuse me, I'm losing my new headphones. But their cheeses have no nuts in them. So how do we pick like what that goes with? Well, we picked cheeses that have a nuttiness to them. And that happens because, well, mostly because they're aged. But we've got all different ages in this box. We have a 6-month cheese, an 18-month cheese, and a 36-month cheese. So we can kind of talk today about what changes the nuttiness with the milk types. We have some different milk types today. And then we're going to have fun pairing them with pairings as well. Okay, so let's start with our first cheese. So our first cheese is the Fiscalini, and it's the whitest of our cheeses. It's the most, on my plate, it's the most well, it's not actually the most crumbly, but it's the whitest. It's pretty crumbly. This is a cheddar. This is Fiscalini bandage wrap cheddar. And this is our sort of middle-aged cheddar. So, by the way, we've been both Julie and I have let these sit out for about an hour. So the flavors are like right on. If you eat something right out of the fridge, it could taste good, but the fat in the cheese is still holding on to a lot of the flavor. So at room temp. Oh, it's so great. Super salty, right?
Yeah,
I really
very
like this
salty and like kind of dry, which is interesting because it's not, totally all the way to like a Parmesan or something, which is like super dry. It's somewhere in the middle, which is interesting.
Yes. So that is happening because this is a bandage wrap cheddar as opposed to a cheddar that is made in block form and just gets cryovac. This one is meant to be drier. A bandage wrap, and bandage, it also could be called, if you've heard of cloth bound cheddar, it's wrapped with cheesecloth. So it's not wrapped with Band-Aid. It's just like a terminology for it. It's very healthy, beautiful cheese. This is made by our lovely friends at Fiscalini Farmstead. And they love their cows. They take one of the things they're known for is how well they take care of their cows. Happy cows make happy cheese. And I really encourage people to check out Fiscalini Farmstead and read more about it, but they really do take care of their cows. They take care of their employees as well. But I think it shows in the flavor on the cheese. So at 18 months, it's had enough time to sort of dry out. It's meant to do that. That's the kind of cheddar this is. It's a cow's milk. And this is actually a raw milk cheese, but because it's aged, it's okay for pregnant women who are avoiding raw milk. Pregnant women just want to avoid fresh, young raw milk cheeses that we actually can't even have in the States unless you are making it yourself. So if you haven't started whipping up your own brie in your kitchen, you're probably okay. But yeah, so this one, and the flavor still lingers. Like I put a piece in my mouth a couple minutes ago and I can still taste this cheese. And that's what I love about a raw milk cheese. It tastes, it lingers, and which is nice when you're pairing. You don't have to put two things in your mouth at the same time. You're just letting these different flavors layer on top of each other. And I like that it's crumbly. This is one of those great cheeses that I wouldn't try to cut into sticks or triangles for your tray.
I don't know how you could, because it like immediately crumbled. I don't even know if I can I'll hold it up. They turn into rocks. They're not
So for those of you who are listening to the podcast and not viewing us, and you can see this on YouTube, it breaks right where the little pieces of the curds that go together that have been cut. It has its own, it knows exactly where it wants to break, and it's just beautiful. So can you taste like the nuttiness in there? Can you see where we're going with nutty, Julie?
I don't think that my palate is sophisticated enough that I would describe it as nutty, because I think my first impulse is like that it's salty.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I think what often happens to me with these things is like I'll taste more of them and I'll be like, oh, now I get it. So I'm kind of expecting the realization to hit later.
And if I could give you a piece of this cheese at 6 months, you would really see the nuttiness. I have a Mini Cooper, not that important, except it's a blue color, but when it sits next to a blue car, it looks black, and when it sits next to a black car, it looks blue. So it changes when we look at it, and cheese is the same way. So let's try our next one.
I mean, that's what you're always saying about pairings too, right? Is that you think this cheese is one thing and then you put it with something else and it's something entirely different.
Exactly. So let's go to the Netherlands and let's try our 6-month Gouda. This is the yellowest of our cheeses. Again, this is a pretty crumbly cheese too. This would also be a hard one. Aged Gouda is a hard one to slice into shapes. It's also a great one to nugget. You just put the point of your knife in and then wiggle and let it sort of start breaking apart.
It has crystals in it.
This is 36. This is our oldest. This is twice as old as the one we just had.
This is kind of shockingly creamy. Like I thought it was going to be totally crumbly dry, and like it gets into your mouth, and when it combines with your saliva or whatever, it just becomes like creamy. And with this one, I can see where we're going with nutty flavor 100%.
Right, and you're kind of getting caramel notes in this as well. Beautiful cheese. And yeah, for those of you who aren't eating this along with us, for me it feels like if you had a chocolate bar that wasn't like too soft, too room temperature, but not cold out of the fridge, and you eat it and you bite into it, right? It's got a crunch, it breaks off, it's a snap, and then it starts to melt in your mouth. This has that same sort of, the fancy word, organoleptical, this feel in your mouth. And it just sort of like
Organoleptical?
Organoleptical is when you feel something in your mouth. So if something was prickly or...
Does it have the word elliptical in it, or am I just hearing that?
Leptic.
Leptic.
Organoleptic. Okay. Yes. It's the feeling. It's like, so we taste things, but we also feel things in your mouth. Like, I don't know why you would put a prickly something in your mouth, but if you did, you could feel that. Like, it wouldn't feel smooth. It would feel prickly. If you put something smooth in, smooth. When you put cold in, you can feel the cold. So we feel different things. And so that has like a beautiful feeling to it.
What is umami then? Is it...
So umami is, it's a mix of both what you're tasting and what you're smelling together. And that makes your flavor. So umami is sort of lighting up that part of your taste buds that is, they call it, sort of the unexplainable flavor. So that can be mushrooms, soy sauce. That's where our MSG, that's why
people... That's not about mouthfeel.
Nope. Umami is totally about that like little extra thing. So if I'm eating truffle chips, like truffle is has very much that umami. It's like, it's not sweet, it's not sour, it's not salty. It's just like, it's bringing more to the table. It's like, it's the new, I mean, when we were kids, that wasn't on the list of flavors. And now, as I would say, even in sort of our halfway to where we are now, umami started really being talked about. So it's newer in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, that is not a
mouthfeel. But I guess it's not. But I learned a fun fact, which I have to share, which is that the reason that Ben and Jerry's ice cream has all that chunky stuff in it is because either Ben or Jerry, I can't remember which, doesn't have a sense of taste.
Oh, wow.
So if he was going to eat ice cream, he wanted something that had a good mouthfeel, which I now know the word is something leptical. Organoleptical. And so that's why it has such chunky stuff in it. I think that's fascinating. Yeah,
I do too. And I love a chunky ice cream. I really do. I know there are people who like it just smooth, but I love, so when I go and get gelato, which is usually super creamy, I always want the stuff that's on the top decorating it. That's just me. So everybody knows, if you're bringing me out for gelato, I want the top part, which is important to know. And the other important thing to know is that this cheese is, it's pasteurized. It's a vegetarian rennet, and 3 years or 36 months. And it's made by Articas Gouda, and it's made in Holland, and beautiful. It's just really interesting. So we should look at one more cheese, because we have one more cheese. And I love this one. We picked this one out. This is called Tres Leches. And it's not like 3 kinds of cow's milk, which is what's usually in it, like tres leches cake, but it's 3 kinds of milks. We have cow, goat, sheep in this one. So you're going to get some tang, you're going to get some salt from the sheep, and you're going to get some creaminess from the cow.
This one you can cut into shapes. Yes. Very smooth and creamy.
It's kind of earthy.
Young. Feels younger to me.
And it is. This one is only 6 months old.
It's a baby.
But we're still getting sort of grown-up taste. Like, this does not taste like a young cheddar or Havarti. It has some grown-up flavors in it. It's kind of teenager. And some of that is because of the 3 milks in it. And some of the texture is because of the 3 milks in it too. It's like assertive but gentle is what we said. I think a lot of people will like this, and they won't know why. It's kind of a little bit of a mysterious cheese, but honestly, we don't get a lot of 3 milk cheeses out there. And when we do, like, we're unfamiliar with the flavor, and we're like, I can't put the finger on what it is that's different about this. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with that it's got 3 milks in there. And we don't get to taste that a lot. And but this, and so now all 3 of these sort of bring a different kind of, let's play with the nuttiness flavor together. Like, and I think once we start eating some nuts and some things with nuts in them, we're gonna like really see that marriage happen there. So this one is made by Spain's La Gruta del Sol, and it's the rind is rubbed with an olive oil. You can eat the rind. You don't have to if you don't want to. What we always say is, like, you might want to try it, but and I will say the closer you get to the rind, the more mushroomy and earthy Rind is nice because it's not like hard or crunchy. Sometimes a rind is just not pleasant to eat.
Yeah,
but
this is a nice rind.
This is one of those that if you had it at a cocktail table and you're like, do I eat it or do I not? I don't have a plate. You just eat it because it's kind of neutral, and you don't have to waste a napkin when you get to eat more cheese. So it's always like what I'm looking for. All right. So when we picked out the cheeses, we wanted to go for things that leaned towards nutty without having any nuts in them. And now I want to lean towards things with nuts in them. We're going to start with our Gilded nuts. So they're pistachios. They're from the Gilded Nut Company. They come from Portland, Maine. And interesting, this is the original blend, which I think is a little bit of a misnomer because I think people think, oh, this is going to be like a salted pistachio. But it is not. It has, let me see, I pulled up the list so I wouldn't get it wrong. So we have in this oregano, smoked paprika, parsley, turmeric, onion, black pepper, cayenne pepper, cumin, sea salt, and garlic. And it is delicious. So it's original blend, but like the first time I saw the packaging, I was like, okay, it's going to be salt. It's going to be salt and maybe something else. But the other thing is they leave these on. They let them ripen on the tree until they open naturally. These are like, it's not a juicy nut, but it's not a dry nut. Like it's, I don't know. I don't have better words for it, but
it feels like a lot of hearty, meaty nut.
Yeah.
Sometimes you eat a nut and it feels like it almost disintegrates into dust.
Yeah.
And like this feels more akin to like how you eat like a walnut or something that is that more meaty kind of nut. And the blend on it is really complex and lovely. And it's definitely the kind of thing where if like I grab some pistachios, I would be surprised and be like, what is this? Where are all these different like spices and fun flavors?
This could be like a bag of nuts that I could accidentally eat all of. Right.
Well, it does say on the back that, you know, you can eat it as a travel snack at your desk before or after a workout, watching movies at your next party, or on top of Mount Everest.
All of those places.
Right?
It's great.
I mean, I'm never going to make it to the top of Mount Everest, but I could try the other ones.
We have a trip scheduled for next week. I didn't tell you about that. And so today we're going to have 3 different nuts. We wanted to make sure we weren't just like, hey, here's peanuts 3 ways. We have pistachios. Then our next one we have is mine's already cut up, is our guava paste by the Casa
How did you cut it up? Because I had you confused when I took it out. I was like, this is a big block. How are you supposed to cut it?
So I took a slice off one end and then I just cut it into like little squares.
Okay.
Or those are rectangles. I'm sorry, rectangles, not squares. But this has pecans in it. So we have pistachios, pecans, and hazelnuts in the cracker in a minute. And you and I were talking at the beginning that because you had your cheese out in your space, you could smell all the cheeses, but this guava paste, I could smell it. Just like there's something about it that says summer. I know this box would be delicious any time of year. It's really not specific to the summer, but there's something about maybe it being warm outside and having this that I feel like all I need now is like a drink with an umbrella in it. It really kind of changes the box. But it has nuts in it. So there's a nice little sort of underlying texture, but it's still kind of bright. And even though the paste is, for those of you who are watching, it's a dark paste. It's imagine somebody made guava jelly and just kept reducing it down until it was like a solid. But it's not too solid. Like you don't have to chew it. It's not like it's not like a chewy candy. And fruit paste like this are just really delicious with cheese. Cheese has been like, especially our aged cheeses, they're like, it doesn't really happen. You don't start with a big block and then it gets down to the size, but you do start with, you know, a cheese that loses its moisture and gets condensed. And this guava paste does that too. So again, we're putting like things together.
And I'm ready for guava and Gouda to be friends. I think that's going to be a combo that I'm going to want to eat.
I think it's going to be fantastic. So these guys partner with small local farms in Mexico. They bring it up. They work out of San Antonio, and I really, really love. I love the products that they bring to the table here in the U.S. And I love that. I mean, I've seen a lot of fruit paste. This is the first company that I've seen that's put nuts in their fruit paste, and I like it. I'm for it. I'm 100% for it. And we have one more thing, and then we're going to get to, because I think this tray is like really special about mixing and matching. We're going to get to our crackers by Potter. So these are cranberry and hazelnut crisps. So they're like the essential sort of toast. A lot of times they'll call this toast, but
they're all different, obviously, because mine looks different than yours.
Yep.
Than this one.
Yeah, you've got a giant chunk of hazelnut in that one, and they're a nice crunchy. They're not like a break your teeth crunchy. These are handmade in Wisconsin, and it's a mother-son team. And Nancy Potter previously owned a bakery for 25 years. Her son got his degree at the University of Wisconsin as a food science graduate. And together they tried to make a cracker that would stand up to all that great Wisconsin cheese. I like the size of this cracker. Mm-hmm. There are some in this style that are much bigger. Mm-hmm. But what I like about this is it's sort of like,
it's a one bite cracker.
It's a one bite cracker. You don't have to be like, oh,
it's crumbly, and then when it falls apart, it's like a mess, and and you want to be able to create your stack and just boop.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting that this is a nutty box, and I think we walk away with the nuts, but over the overlying nut theme. Mm-hmm. But I think because 3 of these are dairy products with no nuts in them, it's kind of a magical box in that they just all go together, and you don't feel like you just went to like a nut convention.
Yeah, well, more than that, though, because I think that pretty traditionally on a cheese plate, when I think about putting out nuts, I'm throwing out some Marcona almonds.
Yeah.
That's like my go-to. I go to the supermarket, I buy, some of them, and like, there's not a Marcona almond to be seen. Pardon me.
Bless you.
But one of the things that I think like I like so much about the curd box is that like I learn new ways to be able to explore an idea. Like you have the idea of fruit on a on a cheese plate. Okay, well then you put out the guava paste instead of an actual piece of fruit. Okay, so you want nuts, but does it have to be like Marcona almonds, or can you go maybe with the pistachios that are flavored, or even, with the nuts being in the cracker instead, and that's just enough. So I just like, me, I like the sort of the intellectual part of getting the box besides the delicious yumminess.
Yeah. Well, it's nice if you can enjoy it on multiple levels, because then you get like more for your money. And like these crackers are actually really good by themselves. We have been in the office snacking on these, even sans cheese, but they're also fantastic with cheese. The nuts, perfect snack without it. And, we really encourage people to think about like what we're serving up in this curd box, and what do you have in your pantry? What is like one of those weird favorite foods? And not even weird, but like a favorite food, even if it's Doritos, like Cool Ranch Doritos, what do you want to pair those with? Like, let's have fun with these. I know, right? Like, I think everybody right now should go out and get a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. I saw that Lay's potato chips has currently got a Cool Ranch Doritos flavored Lay's. That is a mashup. So go find some cheese that pairs with that. I would crunch it on a really delicious grilled cheese sandwich, like Mackenzie Smith does after we put chips on one of her grilled cheeses from our April box. But I think we should start pairing things together. I know you were looking forward to some Gouda and some guava.
Gouda and guava, and not just because they sound
nice.
I think that this is going to be a fine little bite.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice because what the guava does is it kind of not negates, but softens the saltiness of the Gouda. And also because it has kind of a mouthfeel because it's a paste.
Right.
It complements really nicely. Like they blend almost. Like I'm actually surprised at how much they blended as opposed to sort of fighting each other. Okay. I'm going to do cheddar and pistachio next.
All right. I'm all for that. I just had a little bit of the tres leches with the guava paste, and it was really beautiful. But I think totally different than what you were experiencing with it, with the creaminess of the Gouda.
Okay, pistachio and cheddar, super big winner. That's amazing. Because it's just like the additional. Do you remember how I said I couldn't find the nuttiness in the cheddar? It's like the additional spices and stuff from the pistachios just bring out the flavor of the cheddar even more. It sounds funny because you think it would mask it, but it doesn't.
I have a very crunchy bite.
I can hear that. I'm going tres leches, guava paste, because I just want to be a copier. Follow what you.
I threw that with a little bit of or with one of the crackers. Oh man, this is a beautiful. I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm complimenting myself, but this is a tray I'd be proud to bring anywhere. And you could really sort of tweak it a little bit. If you like a little heat, you could go for a spicy nut. On here would not be a bad thing at all.
Or like a red pepper jelly would be really good.
Oh, that would be beautiful. And I think, this is a tray that would really love some fresh fruit. I would stick away from wet fruit like watermelon or cut citrus. But I think actually some grilled peaches would be lovely to slice up and grill. So people could take a little plate. And grilled peaches right now, by the way, are beautiful. Burrata is almost everywhere. And instead of doing caprese with burrata, like doing grilled peaches with a burrata and a little sea salt.
And if you're like being COVID conscious with your party too, and you wanted to like have things pre-made, you could totally take one of these crackers, put a grilled peach, a little bit of cheese, and then people individually just take a thing instead of touching.
Yep, exactly. You can do little cups. I mean, people are out there doing cones. The difficulty with a cone is that there's not a good way to set a cone down without it rolling off the table. But in cute little cups, especially if you have little clear ones, that's great. And you can, put nuts down in the bottom to sort of raise things up, and then cut some of your cheese and sticks and nuggets. And people can walk around with that. It's a little easier because they can set it down if they need to get a drink. And again, COVID friendly, safe. Nobody's worried about it. You can get it all done ahead of time. That's really easy. So, wow, I can't decide what my favorite bite is on this one. I think it changes every time I have a new bite.
I know. I keep thinking it might be cheddar pistachio, but then I keep maybe changing my mind. Cheddar pistachio, pretty hard to beat though.
What I think is interesting, I just had the Gouda and guava, like you started with, which is a very sweet, it's like the dessert bite from this, but then if you temper it with a pistachio, which has all of those really beautiful spice mix on it, it changes the whole bite. And it's like that salt, fat, acid, heat. And it doesn't have heat, but it's really a neat flavor.
Delicious.
Oh, man.
Good job, Jen. Good job.
Well, thank you. It was fun. I'm really excited about our September box because we've been working with Justin. And for those of you who don't know, Justin Warner won, I think it's season 8 of Food Network star, fantastic human. And like he really thinks deep, but not in a crazy elitist way, in like let me know what wicked things are going on in your mind for like fantastic creations. If you're in South Dakota, he's opened a ramen restaurant during COVID. He has a great Instagram to follow. But if you subscribe anytime, or if you're already subscribing in August, he will be ordering, and your order will start with the September box, and that will be the one with Justin. And he will be joining us. So that's the exciting thing for us is we will get to do a podcast with him, and he's very fun to talk to. We just recorded a beautiful little segment I did for his big podcast that comes out soon. So check that out. You can go to curdbox.com and get your box if you're not already getting it. Also, if you're new, you can look at our past boxes and get some ideas. Like if you're like, okay, great, I'm going to order now, but I'm not going to get a box till September. Like look at some of our past boxes. We tell you exactly what's in there. They can listen to our podcast from before, and then they can go look for those exact products if they want. It's a little hard to find them. That's kind of what's special about Curdbox, but they can go like, oh, she had that pickle, but I'll get my local pickle. And she had that cheese, but I'll get another cheddar like it. And if you have a local cheesemonger, they can help you as well. So go explore, take it for a picnic. The weather is hopefully nice where you are. Julie can be followed if you want to follow her at What Julie Ate. You can also find her on PBS. Julie, by the way, has a television show called Make It Artsy, and you can check her out there as well. And you can follow Curdbox at Curdbox, and you can follow me on TikTok at Curdboss, BOSS. And our vendors in today's box, the makers, the people that made this delicious creation for us. You can follow them at Fiscalini Farmstead, at Artikas Gouda, that's ARTIKAAS Gouda. And our pistachios come from at Gilded Nut. Guava paste is at the Casa Market, CASA, and at Potter's Crackers for these delicious crisps. I hope you guys love this. I hope you'll go out and try to find some nutty things to eat. Check your pantry. Also, nut butters are a really interesting thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Try it. It would be fantastic, especially on a really great cracker like this. And then a little cheese. It sounds weird, but then you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm a genius. Not me. You will be the genius for pairing those together. Julie, thanks again for hanging out with me and eating cheese, and for meeting me in the park where I could hand off our secret cheese handoffs. And we'll see everybody next month. Julie, thanks so much for going nuts with me today.
Of course.
And we'll see you guys all next month. And until then, go eat some cheese.